morning, everyone. This is Practically Writing with Sarah Berman. Today we're going to be talking about editors. We're going to talk about what kinds of editors are out there, what to expect when you hire one, and to be perfectly honest, why you should hire an editor. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the difference between an editor and a beta reader. The major difference is that an editor is a professional who you hire to specifically find the problems in your manuscript. So they are in some way trained or otherwise capable of finding and correcting grammar errors, spelling mistakes, punctuation. Essentially, they know how to fix it. A beta reader is specifically the reader's feedback. With a beta reader, you're getting somebody to read it as if they had simply bought it and give you feedback as to how the story is going. This is why beta readers tend to need a little more push from the author's side, because they don't always know how to phrase what they're talking about. For example, a beta reader might be able to tell you there's something just really off about a chapter, but they're probably not going to be able to tell you what specifically is off about the chapter, or even more importantly, how to fix it. So a beta reader gives you an impression of what the reader is going to be thinking and feeling when they read your book. This is extremely important on the one hand, but it does not take the place of a good editor. They both have their place. When I do beta reading, I try to ignore a lot of the grammar and punctuation errors and instead give kind of a run-on commentary of what's going through my head as I'm reading the book. Like, I'll say things like, "This doesn't make sense," or "Really? What was she thinking when she did that?" Or "I really want to know if this is what's going on," or, things like that. So, trying to give authors the insight into what is going on in a reader's head while they're reading the words. It's actually a very visceral kind of feedback. I don't tend to filter that at all, and I very seldom give real suggestions on how to fix it. The most I do is say things like, "This word seems a little off. Maybe it should be more like this." Just talking about how the specific writing is making me feel, often drawing attention to the author as to whether or not that's what they're actually going for. Let's start talking about editors. First, I want to talk about why you should hire an editor. And I get it. You're an author. You write. That's what you do. You probably love words, and you might even love punctuation and grammar and spelling and all of that other stuff. But the thing is, when you get into that writing groove and you're just cranking them words out, you're going to miss stuff. And sometimes that stuff isn't stuff that, spell check is going to catch. And the thing that a lot of people forget is that it is very, very hard to edit your own stuff. Even when I was working as a professional editor, when I was doing, business stuff, I was documentation for a company, and I always encouraged people to tell me if there was, a spelling error. Because the thing is, your brain is really smart, and it doesn't want to be wrong. So when you read the stuff that you've written, your brain kind of fixes it in your head, so it's really hard to catch it when you're just going through the stuff that you've already written. It's hard to explain. I mean, it's like this weird filter that your brain has where it's like, oh no, it's perfect. And we all know it's probably not. An editor is, at the very, very least, a second pair of eyes that can sit there and tell you, no, really, there's two thes right there. Or, you probably didn't mean that version of there. Or, things like that. Because your brain is very clever and will convince you that you did it right, even if you didn't. There are three kinds of editors that I'm going to be talking about today. They're essentially the basic three. The first is a proofreader, which Even though there's no editor in the Word, there's still an editor. Proofreaders are the ones that go through and they check your spelling, and they check your punctuation, and they check your grammar, and they check all of that important stuff that annoys readers if you don't have it fixed, because it's easy stuff to fix, so you want it fixed. A good proofreader will probably go over your manuscript at least twice, sometimes as many as 5 times. When you look at the amount that they're charging, it's usually, an X amount per word. Don't be too shocked at the sticker price, because they're literally reading your manuscript up to 5 times. As much as I love my favorite book, reading it 5 times in a row is not my idea of a good time. That can get really frustrating really fast. And they're usually really good at what they do and really fast at what they do. So they're doing this in about maybe a week or 2, sometimes a little longer, depends on the size of the manuscript. And depends on the amount of work that they have to do on it. So do yourself a favor and run it through spell check before you send it off. If you can take the time to go through and try and do a couple edit runs yourself before you send it to an editor, even better. You're going to catch most of what you have that needs to be fixed. And that makes an editor's job a lot easier, and they can get a faster turnaround for that. I have one editor who is relatively inexpensive, who is only charging me about $40 for a manuscript that's about 40,000 words. So that is a heck of a deal. And I'm really happy to say that she was really good at doing what she did. And it was also a really clean manuscript. So, she totally earned every penny, but, she wasn't overworking herself for that, and you do not want your editor to hate you when you're done, because once you find a good editor, you want to lock them in, because they will love your stuff, they will learn your writing style, and they will be able to work with what you do. I have another editor who is much more experienced, and so she charges more. And I actually have her going over Fluffy Bunny, which is the sequel to Too Wyrd. And that's a much more robust manuscript. So that one's running me about $350. Publication isn't cheap. Just go with that. Publication is not cheap. If you want a good product out there, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay to make it good. Totally worth every penny, by the way. The second type of editor is actually more like a beta reader, but somebody with the experience to be able to help you fix the problems that they come across. And that's a developmental editor. A developmental editor is someone who helps you write a better book. Not in the sense that they make sure all of the grammar is correct, but in the sense that they are willing to help you work through problems with your plots, character development, subplots, the whole 9 yards. They're kind of like a writing coach. So unlike with a proofreading editor, a developmental editor is going to require a lot of one-on-one conversations. You're going to talk to this person about a lot of details, and you should probably understand up front that they're going to know your book intimately. So if you're writing a series, you're probably going to have to spill the beans as to what happens in 3 books down the road. If you know. I know. I'm awesome that way. So a developmental editor actually helps you be a better writer from the perspective of storytelling. If you can find one of these and afford one of these, they are truly worth it. It should be noted that a developmental editor generally charges about $50 an hour, and they will cover approximately 1 to 5 pages an hour. So you're looking at about $3,000 for a book that runs about 300 pages. Again, totally worth it if you can afford it, because they will make you the best writer you can be. Oh yeah, that's our dream. I personally do not have the fundage to be throwing at a developmental editor, but someday I would love to do that and see what kinds of magic we could make together. That sounded really dirty. The last editor I'd like to talk about is a line editor. Now, this is the person who is going to be doing the most meticulous work. They tend to go through literally line by line. That's where they get the name from. It's not very creative. A line editor is going to catch all the grammar mistakes, all the spelling mistakes, all the punctuation errors. They also tend to do things like plot consistency, character consistency. I actually had a character whose eye color changed in the middle of the book. Fortunately, I caught it before publication, but it was weird because her eye color changed. Like, line editors catch things like that. The thing about editors is you're going to find that regardless of what title they use, there's going to be a lot of crossover between them. A general editor will probably do a little bit of everything, maybe not to the really nitpicky detail that a line editor would do, and not to the true writing coach type of thing that a developmental editor might do. Most editors will give you at least a little bit of feedback on your plot, your characters, whether or not something's working, that kind of thing. Do not count on that, because each editor is different. And some editors really prefer to keep those things delineated. That's fine. Really, the best thing to do is, if you're looking for an editor, and you should be, talk to them. Ask them what kinds of things they do when they do their editing services. What specific services do they offer? How much are they charging for it? What their general turnaround is. Be prepared to fork over genre and word count really fast, because that is really telling as to how fast an editor is going to be able to get through things. Finding a really good editor and developing a relationship with a really good editor can save your book. Seriously. Just having somebody who understands what your story is and what your specific quirks are in your writing, that's the kind of person who you're going to be able to work with across several books, especially series, and not have to worry about people trying to correct your voice. Yeah, voice. Or having to explain to people that no, that thing that they thought was an issue was actually addressed in the last book, or, things like that. It's better for all involved if you can develop a good relationship with someone who you will be able to work with throughout your writing career, or at least throughout a good portion of your writing career. Obviously, that could take a little bit. You might have to go through a few people. Some editors are just good. They're good. They catch the things they're supposed to catch, but if you can find one that you really have a connection with, that's even better. I hope this has helped you understand what editors do and what you can expect when you hire an editor. It can be a really daunting experience the first time, but so many of them are also authors. Just keep in mind that they probably understand the stress that you're going through as an author trying to get a book out. Just find somebody you can work well with, talk to them, make sure that you have some sort of, click. You don't want to put your baby in the hands of somebody who you can barely stand. It's probably not going to go that well. So, develop a relationship with an editor, and, make sure you read the contracts when you get the contracts, because I can't even begin to explain how important that is in an author's career, is reading the contracts. If you don't understand something in the contract, Google it or ask them. Both work just fine. I think that'll be everything for today. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Too Wyrd. Ebooks and paperback are on Amazon, or you can contact me and get yourself a signed copy. I do send those out. Isn't that awesome? You can get a hold of me on Facebook, Twitter, or my website. As usual, links are below. Don't forget to follow this channel. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to check out all my links. And don't forget to come back next time. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. I am not a Van Trapp kid, so bye. Hire an editor. Just hire an editor. Do it. Simply the best, better than all the rest. 'Cause I got me a developmental editor, and they're gonna make me the best. I'm gonna be the best. Doodles! Bye!